Are you running way over time on your sales calls or your actual client sessions? I'm going to give you some tips here for how you can improve this quite quickly. So, one thing that's amazing to do is at the very beginning of your call, tell your client or potential client that to get the most out of your time together, that you may pause them at any point in time during the call just to bring you guys back on track. So, it could be very simple, just like you'd pause the TV because you're like, okay, I want to go use the bathroom. You just pause it and then you press play, and it can be very easy and smooth. To practice pausing people, sometimes doing it outside of an actual business setting can feel better. So if you kind of have a part that's like, I'd hate to pause someone that's so rude, or wouldn't that be mean, or da 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 da. We're gonna do healings on things later, and in a safe container, you could, for homework, if that feels aligned, have a business friend or somebody close in your world that you like set up a time container for. So maybe start with 5 minutes and tell them to just like tell me a story. I want to practice interrupting people. I want to get good at finding kind of a place where you take a sip of water or take a breath or start to shift gears or say something else or just take a deep breath, take a breath. That you want to get better at pausing people, and you want to practice it in a container where it's literally no big deal. The intention of you guys setting this container for 5-ish minutes is that you get good at pausing people so they can start telling you a story. And then if they start rambling, then you might pause them there, or you might just pause them randomly so you can get that okay in your nervous system that you can say pause and someone can stop talking and have whatever reaction or not reaction that you think that they might have and just get that practice under your belt. A more advanced practice, if you're like, yeah, I've paused people, mm, I can maybe get better. Then a more advanced setting for homework that you might feel aligned with would be setting up a swap session with someone that you already have good rapport with, a coach friend or healer friend that you've done maybe some swapping in the past, and let them know that you want to get better at getting incredible results in a short amount of time and also get better at pausing people. So you could set up the session to maybe be 25% less time than you normally would, or if you want to really go for it, play with 50%. If you normally have an hour-long session, do a 50-minute or a 50-minute session if you want to do that, because that just came out, or a 45 or a 30. So you can see how you can get better. I literally trained myself with this with a bunch of friends and a bunch of swaps too. So this could be really awesome if you have a practice partner and you have an amazing entrepreneur friend who also wants to get really good at this. So practice with a shorter amount of time. And in this container, just let them know that you're practicing pausing during the session and that you're going to pause them when they start sharing too many unnecessary details or go in a loop of something or start to downward spiral or have a victim identity come up and it's just wanting to say all the bad things. Or when you just get off track or on a different tangent that actually has nothing to do with the goal of the session, that you're going to pause them lovingly through that. And you can also get practice of explaining what pausing is to your people that already know you and like you and trust you and that you have friend relationships with. So that when you do it with a brand new person, it's easy for you to explain the loving pause so that they get the most of the session or the sales call that you're on. There's so many good tips. I love this. So, another thing that can be really lovely to do is to have a soft alarm that goes off either 5 minutes or 7 minutes or 10 minutes before the session is actually supposed to end. And let them know at the beginning of the session, hey, we're going to have a 5-minute timer go off at the end. And you can share with them that, that's a note to all of your parts and all of your, hmm, inner children, your consciousness, all of you, that we're no longer going to bring up anything new in the session. That at the 5-ish minute mark, we're going to begin to bring everything to a grounded close so that you're really well set off to like integrate well, and we're not like leaving you hanging that like at the 1 hour mark, this other big trauma or this other big trigger, this other big thing came up, and now we're like, well, we're at an hour. That's time. Bye. So that like loving, gentle 5 to 10 minute timer beforehand, that's like a soft, gentle alarm. It could be like birds chirping or something very like relaxing. So it's just like, okay, a noise comes off to signify, okay, we're beginning to bring the session to completion. We're beginning to bring the sales call to completion. So you can be honoring of everyone's time and so that you can integrate it in a better way. So yeah, letting the person know that whenever the timer goes off, we're going to be really intentional of bringing everything that has been said to an integrated close, and we're not going to bring up anything new. But if there are new things and are other layers, because that's how healing works, that it can be brought up in another session in the future, or if you decide to continue to work together. The next one can be quite prevalent for people where they just like lose track of time, where it's like, I love doing this, I lose track of time, I'm just in it, and then I like look up and like we're at time or we're over time. So if you notice that you lose track of time, I'm going to invite you to start building up the habit of checking the time. So if you're doing in-person sessions, have a clock, like a big clock or like a little clock, like something where you can easily see it around your client's head area so that it's quick for you to just like glance at the time, check in, and that can be part of your process. You can put a post-it note or a little like side scribble on your notes if you're doing notes handwritten, or if you're doing them on your laptop, like a little note being like time check, time check. So that you're like, okay, as I move down the page, there's a little time check. So that can be supportive, just to start building up that habit. If you want to get in the habit of doing it like every 15-ish minutes, that's good to be like, okay, where I'm at for this, how am I doing here? It's really pretty easy on a laptop because if you're doing notes on the laptop, it's pretty easy to just like look down at your clock and be like, okay, that's how much time we have left. I wrote down notes because this has been a thing for so many clients. So I wanted to be very, very thorough in this. So building that habit up and start with like baby steps and celebrate those wins because it can take a little time to like shift from, oh my gosh, time just like, I don't know where time went. I lost track of it completely to being like, okay, I'm very clear on where we're at throughout the time of the session. Um, the other thing that I love is that if you tend to use a script or like a general flow for your sales calls, then you can put little like timestamp markers of where you would ideally be as you flow through the call. So you're like, okay, if it's going smoothly, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm talking about the offers. This would be the amount of time that they're either like saying yes or we're starting to get into objections, like having those touch points. So you can be like, okay, I'm going to like accordion things bigger or smaller. You might just like deep dive into things quicker or um like cut things out if you would like normally say it if you had a ton of time, like you can accordion it where it's like, okay, if we're getting to the end and we don't have time to go into every challenge or every challenge that they've had um and have worked through and like what have they tried for those challenges and stuff like that, you might like make it more concise. For example, if you're like, ooh, we're over time. Um, The other thing that you can do, especially if you have a hard stop and you're like, "Ooh, I'm really going over time, but this is so good." This can also happen if you're a relationship coach or a sex coach and you're like wanting to work with partners and you didn't necessarily allocate enough time for like both people to be responding so much or to have so much dialogue between everyone. Um, you can mention the time to be like, oh my gosh, I love all the things that are coming up, that you're bringing up, that we're getting into. This is so amazing. And I want to check in on time. So if you have a hard stop, mention like, I have a hard stop in 20 minutes. I want to make sure that you get the most out of the call. So it might be good to like preemptively be like, okay, we're going to have a follow-up call where we can continue to go into these things as deeply and check in with them on that. A lot of people tend to have time right after. So you can also buffer in your own calendar 30-ish minutes so that you're not back to back on calls for one. And also, so if your sales call goes a little bit over, then you have that buffer space, or so that you can like resource yourself before your next scheduled thing after that. But having that buffer time can be really nice because you're like, oh, okay, we're like 20 minutes behind schedule. This is so good. I feel like they love this, and like continuing on this like peak will like be amazing, and let's like keep going. So you can check in with people and be like, hey, I'm noticing the time we have about 20 minutes left. Do you have a hard stop? And if they don't have a hard stop and you don't have a hard stop, then you can say, okay, are you okay if we go over by about 20 minutes? And then you can get their consent. And then you can be like, okay, cool. We can still like go through things as thoroughly as you wanted to. Or we can again accordion the thing of like, if you have a lot of time, you can like honor that space. And if you're like, ooh, we like spent more time talking about the desires and why it's important and all the amazing things here. So we might talk a little bit less about these ones over here. So you can always feel into your intuition on how you play with that. I'm tuning back into the notes to make sure that we're going over all the pieces. Okay, awesome. There's so much stuff coming up around this. So I'm actually going to break it into like this piece, which was mostly conscious pieces and tips that you can integrate. So you can do those for homework, whatever ones that feel most resonant to you. Start with baby steps. Like the awareness of it is awesome. And then be like, okay, I'm going to do this thing and then build on that win and then build on that win. So I'm going to do another video that has a bunch of clearings and healings on how to stop doing it from like a subconscious level and from an energetic standpoint. So yeah, in that one, I'll go over like some of the overgiving energy, the people pleasing energy, the fear that the client's going to get mad or like not like that you cut them off or not like that they don't have the space to just go on and on and on. Getting into boundaries, getting into like structuring the sales calls so you have like clarity on things and you don't go into tangents and waste time on things that aren't really important. Um, People who fire hose their clients and just want to like overload them with all the things that they know, or just a lack of experience for newer coaches or healers who like don't really have the experience yet. So I'm going to do a bunch of healings and clearings on all of that. If you would like instant access to that next video, definitely let me know by commenting below or sending me a message saying next bid so that you can get it.